Hello, fellow bibliophiles, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. I'm Marissa, and today I am excited to do the library tag. I was tagged by Katie from Books and Things a while ago at this point to do this tag, and I was very excited about it, but I guess I'm just getting around to it now. So yes, I absolutely love the library, as you'll see from the rest of this video. So this is a really interesting tag video. I'll link the original down below, but there are two sets of prompts to choose from depending on whether you go to the library frequently or you do not use your library. So I do go to the library, I go quite frequently, and I will be answering that set of prompts. Question number 1, how often do you go to the library? So I go to the library pretty much at least once a week, but most of the time I go with my son and I spend some time in the children's section. So I don't have the luxury of looking at books for myself for the most part. I try to go for myself at least once a month. After work, I have exactly 1 hour before the library closes, so I try to go then. I work on Saturdays sometimes for half the day, so I occasionally go then as well, or I have my husband watch my son so that I can go randomly on a weekend. Before having my son, I used to go to the library more frequently, like once a week for myself, because it is just my happy place, and I love browsing the books even if I don't pick anything up to read. Question number 2, do you belong to more than one library system? So I only belong to the one library system, but it is a fantastic library system. I am really lucky. There are a ton of different branches that you can frequent and take books out from. You can put books on hold from any other library in the county, and they come within a few days. There are tons of copies of most popular books, and it's usually only very academic books or books that are only published in the UK or another country that I can't find. It's just a really wonderful system. I'm actually walking distance to 4 libraries. They all have such different atmospheres to them. The closest one is a 5-minute walk, if that, but they're doing construction on it right now. So they've set up this makeshift library in the community center, which is actually quite wonderful. It's a lot of fun to take my son to. They have this room that has tons of puzzles and toys and stuffed animals and of course children's books. And then there's sort of a gymnasium where he can run around as well. The selection isn't that great, but I think for a makeshift library, they're doing pretty well. I really can't wait to see what the new library will be like. The other libraries are a 20 to 30-minute walk in different directions. One of them is an old Tudor-style house that was converted into a library, and it has an entire basement floor that's a children's section. There are a lot of local programs there for kids, and they have this whole gardening project, but their adult section is very small. One of the other libraries is really beautiful and fancy. It has dark antique wood furniture, paintings in ornate gold frames, Victorian wallpaper, and wingback chairs with embroidery on them. It's really beautiful, but it doesn't feel very inviting or homey. There's also one that's a 5-minute drive that has a really big selection. I think it was built in the 60s and it feels very dated and shabby, but like I said, the selection is fantastic for adult fiction. And then I also go to the library in my hometown a lot because it's not too far from where I work, and they have an even better selection than the ones closer to me. Question number 3, what % of books that you read come from the library? So I had to look this one up actually. I went through some of my previous years of reading, and I was surprised to find that I think at least half of the books I read come from the library. Maybe even 2/3 if you include all of the audiobooks that I get through the library too. I've always been a library person. Growing up, I didn't own too many books, but I really started amassing books when I was in grad school. I miss literature so much, and I had no time to read in the first few years, so I started collecting books that I wanted to read for the future when I would have more time, kind of like a security blanket. It was really comforting knowing that they would be there when I had the time to read them. and it spiraled out of control a little bit. My bookshelves are overflowing right now, and most of the books I have are unread. But I just have so much fun at used book sales. And then, of course, when I did have more time, all I wanted to do was read books from the library and frequent the library again. So it seems that most of the books I do read come from the library. But I also have an extensive and growing collection at home, which brings me comfort that I can read them anytime I want. Question number 4. Do you listen to audiobooks or get ebooks from the library, or are you hooked on Audible or Amazon or something else? My library has 2 apps that I utilize a lot for audiobooks, and I guess ebooks at times, but I haven't read many of those lately. The apps are Hoopla and Libby, and they're both wonderful resources for audiobooks and ebooks as well. They don't have everything, but they do have an awful lot. I tend to listen to audiobooks on the drive to work. Hoopla can give me some problems though while driving. Sometimes it just won't connect to my car, or it'll just completely lose my spot. And now that I cut my hours at work and watch my son some days, I don't get as many audiobooks read as I used to, but it's still nice to listen to them during my commute. I actually have trouble focusing on audiobooks while I'm not driving. Like if I'm just sitting at home, I have a hard time paying attention somehow. But I also need an audiobook to be really animated or engaging in narration to focus on it while driving. My auditory skills just aren't as good as my visual perception is. Are there any activities that you guys like to do while listening to audiobooks? I know Katie from Books and Things tells me that she cooks and exercises, but those just aren't activities that I can do while listening. The cooking is too loud, and I need to focus on whatever exercise video I'm watching too much so to listen to an audiobook at the same time. I haven't picked up my knitting in a very long time, but if a pattern is simple enough, audiobooks are really good for that, I guess. So yeah, I'd be curious to know if you have suggestions of other things I can do while listening to audiobooks. Question number 5. Did you go to story time at the library as a kid? I don't know. I don't remember going to story time as a child, but I do remember going to the library in general as a kid. I definitely go to story time now, though. I haven't been in a while, actually, because my son has been crying during them. My husband and I have this theory that he hasn't been liking story time because they sing songs instead of reading books. So maybe I'll take him again soon. We'll see. Question number 6. Have you ever borrowed a movie or video game from your library? So I don't play video games, but I've taken DVDs out from the library before. Mostly period dramas that aren't on any of my streaming services. It's how I watched The Chronicles of Barsetshire and Sanditon. In college, I went through a classic movie phase where I fell in love with Audrey Hepburn and took out all of her movies from the library. But honestly, since my computer stopped having a DVD slot, and now that we have a bunch of streaming services, I rarely take out DVDs. Question number 7. Have you ever gotten fined for returning books late? If so, how do you feel about that? I'm embarrassed and ashamed to say yes. The times I've returned books late have been few and far between. It's happened maybe 3 times in my lifetime, and I frequent the library a lot, but I always get so upset and agitated over it. It's only ever been a few days late, and it's usually because it couldn't be renewed and I wanted to finish the book, but I just feel awful and embarrassed. It's only ever been a few cents, and it is a donation to the library. But recently they've instituted auto-renew features and texts and emails when something is coming due, so that really does help. And lately, if I haven't finished a book by the time it's due, I actually return it and try to take out a copy from a different branch as soon as possible. Question number 8. Do you attend special events, groups, or book sales at the library? The local libraries have lots of groups and events that I never go to. Things like arts and crafts projects, knitting groups, language classes, classes, movie screenings, but most of them are during the day when I can't go, and I get confused if I can go to events from any branch or if I can only sign up with the library my card belongs to. Plus, I have slight social anxiety and just talk myself out of going entirely. But I love library sales. Our county does a terrible job of publicizing them, but they are amazing. Not all of the libraries in the county have them, but the one in my hometown is fantastic, and I try to keep an eye out for others as well. Heather from Fresh Parchment is my library sale buddy. She goes with me to all the sales and invites me to some run by the local library in her county too, so that's a bit of a drive, but tons of fun. Question number 9. Have you ever given or taken a book from a little free library, a book box, or a book swap? Yes, absolutely. I love free little libraries. There are a few that we can walk to, and they're very hit or miss. One of them is actually outside a library. There's one in the park, one by a local elementary school, and 2 that I know of by people's houses. I take free books from them all the time, and when I remember to, I take books that I've decided to get rid of a few at a time to drop off. I like to think that the books I take and the books that I donate are about equivalent, but I don't keep very good track of that. Question number 10. Bonus, does your librarian know you by name? No, unfortunately not. I'm pretty shy in person and I don't usually talk to the librarians. Plus, I go to a lot of different libraries, so I don't go to the same one very frequently. My son makes friends everywhere he goes though, and I suspect that before long they'll know his name at the closest library. And last but not least, tag some friends. I don't know who has already been tagged in this. I want to tag Heather from Fresh Parchment because I talked about her in this one, and Carla Likes to Read because her channel is new to me and I've been loving her content lately. I'll also tag Shelley Swearingen and Taking Tea with Catherine. And then I'll also tag you if you're watching and think that this sounds like a fun thing to do. Consider yourself tagged. So I hope you enjoyed this little chatty tag video. It was a lot of fun to do. I would love to hear in the comments down below if you enjoy libraries, if you frequent your library, if you have any comments about the things that I mentioned. Let's chat about all of the things in the comment section down below. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you in another bookish video very soon. Bye!